this week's Type 1 Thursday. I am so excited to have you here. We are talking today about a probably quite relevant topic, considering the state of the world today. Don't really want to say too much about the virus situation, but what I can do and what I'm happy to do and what I'm more than joyful of doing is to talk about anxiety and how it feels, and also, of course, what you can do to maybe alleviate your anxiety a little bit. And throughout this, I would love to have a conversation with you. So if you want to share your tips on how to maybe alleviate anxiety a little bit, please leave a comment and I will be so happy to chat with you either there later or throughout the live, depending on when the comments come in. But yes, leave a comment with your best anti-anxiety tips. What is anxiety actually? Because we hear it everywhere and I don't really know if everyone is on the same sort of page on what it is, but it's basically just, simple, just your body's natural reaction to stress. That's when you feel anxiety, and that's when all those terrible feelings start coming. It is essentially a fear of the future, or a sort of, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and uncertainty and / fear of the future. So that is what happens when you are anxious in your body. If this goes on for a longer time, you can, of course, have anxiety disorder, which will need medical help. And that's maybe some of these tips that I will share will help, but I think you also would prefer to find medical attention on that one. So signs of anxiety can range from anything, sort of from feeling judged by others or by yourself. It can be that you're fidgety, like you can't find the peace, you're very restless. It can be perfectionism, probably not the case right now, but yes, perfectionism can be a sign of anxiety. You feel a little bit afraid, you feel stressed, you feel worry, you feel negativity. And these are all things that make up anxiety and anxious feelings. And they're not very comfortable to live with, so that's why I'm going to share my best tips with you in a little bit. But first, I wanted to share a quote that I read from my friend and fantastic person. It was Sean Miner. If you don't know who she is, check her out. She's fantastic. But she shared a fantastic quote the other day. I think it was yesterday. And I wanted to share that with you because it's very relevant. And it is: worrying is like praying for something you don't want to happen. And how true is that? If we keep on like mulling over the whole time the things that we don't want to happen and the things we're worried about and the things we're anxious about, how are we ever going to get to the right where we actually want to be? So that I found that quote was amazing. Now, to the point of what can we do about it? Yes, a lot of people are anxious right now, with whether you live with diabetes or not. Yes, diabetes can add an extra layer of anxiety, but it of course doesn't have to. But anyway, a lot of people are anxious right now because of the situation in the world, and some tips that I'm about to share with you might actually help you as well to feel a little bit lighter in life, a little bit easier, and a little bit maybe not so strung up and stressed. So my first sort of anxiety blaster, can we call them that? It is focus on the good. So this can be anything from like the smallest thing. The sun is shining today. That's a beautiful flower. Do you hear the birds chirping? Look at nature. How beautiful is that tree that is just about to bloom if you're in the northern hemisphere and spring is on its way? Small things like that. Noticing the small things, focusing on the good things and not on these huge things that could and may and should go wrong according to your brain right now. But focus really on the good and have and in that way you actually get a more positive outlook, and that can really help you. And this goes hand in hand, of course, with the old and very used term of gratitude. do make a list. Why not have a list of things that you're grateful for and write on there every day? It can be on your phone, it can be on a piece of paper, it can be in a journal, it can be anywhere you want, but why not make a gratitude list? That can also help. And when these anxious feelings come, why not try at least to turn it around and ask, hey, what if this works out? What if this becomes the best thing that has ever happened to me? You know, try to think of it, turn it around to a little bit more positive. I know when you sit there and you're super anxious, it's not easy, but at least it can be worth a try. Make sure that your sleep routine is really good. Constant timings when you go to bed, when you get up, and make sure that you sleep well. I'll go through some supplements in a minute that can help with anxiety, but it can also, of course, help with sleeping. So they go a little bit hand in hand as well. How is your self-talk? Check in on your self-talk. Could you be a little bit kinder to yourself? Could you maybe tell yourself that you love yourself and that you are beautiful to your mirror image? Could you at least try, even if it feels silly? But self-talk, really check in on how you're talking to yourself. Is it maybe time for a social media cleanup? Pages you follow, groups that you're in, negative people, negative followers if you have those, negative friends. Could you just, maybe it's time to take at least a break from them, if not unfollow them completely. Clearing up what has become more of our mental space, which is social media, unfortunately, can really help getting you out of that anxious loop. And also nutrition, of course, has a lot to do with it. I cannot have a Type 1 Thursday unless I mention nutrition, and make sure that you try to primarily at least stick to real foods rather than, processed, factory-made, blacky, yucky food. Make sure that you eat real food. If your body can't, or if your body doesn't have the nutrients that it needs, it will become, it's easier to become anxious because you don't get the nutrients to your brain, you don't get the nutrients to your neurotransmitters and stuff like that. So make sure you eat real food and none of this fake stuff. When we talk about food, we have to talk about supplements, of course. And there are some supplements that may work for anxiety or against anxiety or whatever you want to call it. But of course, if you're unsure, before trying, you should seek a medical opinion on these. It could be that GABA helps you. It's a neurotransmitter in the brain, and taking extra GABA sometimes helps to calm the whole nervous system down. Valerian root. This helps me, for example, when I have trouble sleeping. I have a tea with valerian root in it, and oh my god, I sleep like a baby. So that could be worth trying. How about ashwagandha? It's a root from India, as the name kind of indicates. That can also help anxiety and restlessness. Make sure that your anxiety doesn't stem from inflammation. So maybe a little extra boost of omega-3 wouldn't hurt right now. How about magnesium? That also can help for sleeping and relaxing. CBD oil. I am a big fan. It has saved my life on many occasions in the past couple, at least this past year. So I can really recommend that if you want to, calm your nervous system down. And maybe because anxiety can also stem from bad gut bacteria. So maybe look into if you need to take some probiotics, for example, to recultivate your gut with happy little bacteria that are happy and not sad ones. Anyway, that's for the supplements. How about when you feel really anxious, call someone. Call your mom, your friend, your sister, your husband, your wife, anyone who will listen and that you feel comfortable with. Call them, have a Skype coffee, or as I like to do it with some of my friends, have a Skype afterward where you get to choose whatever beverage you are drinking. That can also be fun. Reevaluate your why in life. Why, what are you doing? What are you trying to achieve? What do you want to achieve? And why is why is what you're doing giving you anxiety and not taking you closer to that? Do something purely for fun. Have a dance party. Daryl Edwards just put up his fantastic dance party to old 90s tunes. Love it. And I can say that this may or may not be happening in my living room at certain intervals of the day / week / month. But yes, have a dance party, for example, or anything that you think is just pure fun, just to enjoy yourself a little bit. Maybe the most important one, which I should have mentioned first, is breathing. If you breathe up here and can't, seem to catch your breath, it's probably a little bit of anxiety and stress in there. If you, on the other hand, and this my camera won't reach, but if you breathe from like down here, your belly button area, imagine how much more oxygen you get in, and imagine how much more calmness you can breathe in and breathe out the stress. It is a wonderful, powerful tool, and I suggest you use it wisely. With that comes, of course, meditation. Do you have a meditation practice? It has been shown to reduce anxiety and stress in everyday life. So if you haven't tried it, or you've had a longer break or something, I suggest you get back on it, because it is really helpful. With that also comes yoga, of course, a huge personal favorite of mine to relieve anxiety. And if my anxiety is really, really, pressing, then I do like to keep a little EFT practice, a little tapping. I'm sure there are tons of videos online where you can tap along to relieve your anxiety. There are tons of resources online that you can find, and this is the emotional freedom technique that is basically like acupressure puncture thing that lets your nervous system know that everything is okay. We'll be fine. We can get through this too. This too shall pass. It really calms you down, and that's the whole point of getting out of an anxious moment in your life. I'm not a huge fan myself, but I know it helps a lot of people. It's journaling that can also help anxiety, and well, if it works for tons of people, I'm sure it could work for you as well. Just jot down your thoughts, your anxiety, just put it in perhaps a beautiful notebook that you keep handy, or on your phone, or there is a fantastic app called Cocoon Weaver that you can speak into, and it will transcribe your thoughts and stuff like that. So make sure you get those thoughts down on paper, for example. And if you are diabetic and have to manage your blood sugars, how about making sure that you are okay with managing your blood sugars as well as you can at this point of time when anxiety strikes? Because anxiety, as I said in the beginning, is a form of stress. It is caused by stress. And stress, as we know, is a blood sugar killer numero uno, and will and can cause havoc on your blood sugars. It is not easy to try to control your blood sugars when you are stressed, and definitely not when you're also anxious. So just do the best you can, and please forgive yourself for it, and be okay with that being your goal for that point of time. Also, while there are so many ideas and tools to relieve anxiety, also make sure that you do feel your feelings. Sit with them, perhaps in a meditation, perhaps breathing them through, because bottling them up won't help either. It won't get better. They'll just burst out in some other way, in another time, in another place where you're really not prepared. So maybe now that we are all staying at home, I hope we have time to take a little bit of more time to actually feel our feelings and really process them properly, so that we don't get caught up later. Please, I want to hear from you. What is your best tip for relieving anxiety? Or maybe I gave you a tip in this video. So share which one you liked the most down below in a comment. Until next time on Type 1 Thursday.